Welcome one, welcome all to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ. Sorry, got a little frog in the throat there. We are going to take a look at the Ranger class from Level Up Advanced 5th Edition. Um, the big news is the base Ranger class has no magic. And if you're someone who really loves your fantasy D20 and you want to get a little comparison, um, an overlook, as if you will, please join us here on these A5E Thursdays, these Level Up Advanced 5th Edition Thursdays, where we take a look in the book at classes, magic, items, um, anything for your needs. I thought I would uh, take a look at something like that. But first, let's get past the intro, and then I'll tell you about a little bit about myself, and then we'll dive right deep into the Ranger. Get a little nerdy, little geeky here, so please bear with us. So I am DBJ, Davabrian Jackson, and I was one of the um, 30 members that collaborated to rewrite the Creative Commons 5th edition rules into Level Up Advanced 5th edition. This was a placeholder name that stuck, and it has unfortunate consequences because there's so many things related to Level Up. But we're going to show the PDF. In front of me is the leatherette hardback book. But we're going to get into the PDF, show that off. Would love all of your comments if you're able to show up here live. We do this podcast live with all of your comments and questions and that sort of thing. We're going to get into the Ranger class, and the Ranger class is very maligned in uh, current day Dungeons and Dragons. Both the fact that the A5E version of the Ranger has no magic, and the fact that Level Up 5th Edition has a fully developed and embraced um, exploration pillar is one of the things that really separates it far from um, maybe many of the other iterations or variations you have for the Ranger. So let's get into some of the abilities and features of the Ranger. Of course, we have a 2-page spread talking about the background of the Ranger. Many of you, I'm sure, already know about this portion of the Ranger, but here we have it. And it begins, if you have the book or the PDF, it begins on page 223. And we get into our class features. So the class feature has a D10 hit die. You guys understand what that, getting your hit points. You start out at first level with 10 hit points plus your Constitution modifier, and then roll a D10, or you take a 6 plus your con mod for each level after the first. Now, one of the things when it comes to this chart here on the right side, for all the classes, of course, we have our level and what you receive at the various level. Next to level, we have proficiency bonus, and that just runs in line with standard 5th edition. And then next to it, we have features. Now, it will give you the name of the features, and we're going to go through at least probably 10th level, mid-level, or half the levels for some of the features. But next to that, we have knacks known. And many of the classes have things known as like traits, knacks, knowledges, lore, or something like that, specific to that class type. And these knacks allow you to mix, match, and carve your character into the type of character that you would like. Many times what the knacks are, not only are they just unique features unto themselves, but some of the knacks are base level abilities that have been removed from that class and other classes, massaged a little bit to allow you to um, play the style and thematic elements of the game that you want that might be different than someone else. For example, maybe your game has a lot more social encounter or a lot more exploration, because we are talking about the Ranger, exploring uncharted, desolate regions, dangerous places, rather than fighting monsters. And those knacks allow the players to maneuver them. They are like, if I had to make an equivalent, they are like half-size feats, very small, but they do again massage the character to give them more physicality, more social interactions, maybe some um, maneuvering in combat and things like that. Next to that, I use the improper terminology. Next to that, we have maneuvers known. In Level Up 5th Edition, we have combat maneuvers. And in combat maneuvers, they are the equivalent of non-magical capabilities in the parity to what wizards would have with spells. So maneuvers are like martial maneuvers. I guess you could call them martial arts, combat maneuvers. There's over 175 of them, and they are subdivided into schools or categories. And uh, all the martial classes have the ability to pick through maneuvers, and I'll tell you the schools of the maneuvers, but just reading off all the maneuvers is just a little bit too daunting. Maybe one day or one of these Thursdays we'll go over the like a specific school, or maybe 1 to 3 schools, and talk about those. And lastly, next to maneuvers known, we have the maneuver degree. So even at first level, the ranger does not have access to any martial maneuvers, whereas the fighter has access to all of them at first level. And then the maneuver degree, the maneuvers go from first degree to 5th degree. Of course, you can't have a second degree without first gaining a first degree maneuver, and they are gated behind your class level. So, for example, a ranger can't get a second degree maneuver until they achieve 5th level. Of course, they are the ultimate survivalists, and we'll get into how this base ranger has 0 magic, and how we handle a particular problem when it comes to rangers. There's some commonality amongst uh, within the tabletop role playing community when it comes to. Let me turn this off for just a moment, since you guys aren't having a comment here. There's some commonality in tabletop role playing games that where we have these eternal issues. One issue is, I mean, some of these are very common, like hacking rules, uh, crafting rules, piloting rules, piloting slash ship combat rules, and how to handle the ranger. And one of the difficulties in handling an exploration ranger style class is that if you pick a specific environment, let's say the Arctic, if you aren't there, maybe you're not as efficient and not as capable, and it feels like you made the wrong decision, and you don't feel as capable as everyone else. Whereas if you are in the Arctic region, maybe you're too much of a badass, and it makes everybody else feel a little bit useless. Another one is like the ranger with the pet, with the companion that runs next to them, and it's, well, with your companion, maybe the the way the balance runs in the game, maybe you're a little too effective and you overrun the capabilities of other characters. Whereas if you lose your pet or companion, you may feel like you are underserved. And those are Level Up 5th Edition deals with this in its own specific way. So of course we have to the very left we have, their ultimate survivalist, how to create a ranger, proficiencies. Of course they're proficient with like light armor, medium armor, shields, simple and martial weapons. They get to pick tools, choose one tool, either herbalism kit, navigator's kit, poisoner's kit, or musical instrument. Their saving throws are strength and dexterity, and then there's a number of skills to choose from, and they're pretty common. Um, there are a number of sets of equipment that you can pick from. In the 5th edition, I think there's only like 2 sets or 3 sets of equipment. Level Up 5th edition has like a dozen, and so there's like a deep delver's kit or a marksman set, and the math has already been done for the cost of those and what you receive in them. Like the marksman kit has a battle axe, longbow and quiver, 20 arrows, a scimitar, padded leather, and explorer's pack. Whereas the deep divers set has a longbow and quiver, 20 arrows, scimitar, short sword, scale mail, and a dungeoneer's pack. And you can mix and match those as you see fit. So Exploration acts. For a ranger, exploration isn't just something that happens between destinations, it's a way of life. You start with 2 ranger exploration knacks. They appear at the end of the ranger class in the book. The knacks known column of the ranger shows what you learn. So we have something known as familiar terrain. And for this is the main feature of the ranger. And instead of stating that you have like Arctic or desert or swamp, instead you just become familiar with that terrain. That makes sense. So when making an intelligence wisdom check related to a natural terrain, you gain an expertise die if using a skill you're proficient in. An expertise die is a D4, and if you have multiple expertise, it goes up from there. While traveling in natural terrain, you gain the following benefits. Difficult terrain doesn't slow your group's travel. Your group can't become lost except by magical means. Whenever you are engaged in another activity while traveling, you remain alert to danger. Your passive perception increases by 2. If you're traveling alone, you can move stealthily at a normal pace. When you hunt and gather, now hunt and gather is part of the expanded exploration rule set. And whenever you are traveling, every member of the group can pick a role they would like a journey activity that they can gain in. Hunt and gather happens to be one of them. It can be hunt and gather, stalking, busking, raising morale, praying, cartography, things like that. And so the ranger, of course, is very good at hunting and gathering. When you hunt and gather, you find twice as much supply as you normally would. One of the things that the when the playtest was happening for Level Up 5th Edition was to embrace a little bit more um, uh, simulationism and to not have the characters feel as superheroic, that there are other threats on the horizon. And one of the 2 threats that happens to the characters, no matter what level they are havens and supply. So supply is basically, in general, we would call that like food and water, but it's more than that. It's about having the supplies needed. Ooh, hello everyone. Oops. Um, it's about having the supplies needed for survival. And if the players run out of supply, they can't take, and they don't have enough supply or enough to to move forward, then they can't take short rests and long rests. They can't regain expended uses of ability that they only regain in, say, a long rest or a short rest. They can't heal in a natural manner or regain their spell slots and things like that. So there's always the threat of not having enough supply. Haven is the other thing. Haven is a safe place to regain those things. So not only do you need your resources to regain your supply, it also means that you need to have a safe place to do it. So taking an 8-hour nap in down in a deep dungeon is a little difficult, but rangers have the ability to set up to hunt and gather supply, to create havens, things of that nature. So, studied adversary. Under studied adversary, you have significant experience studying, tracking, hunting, and even communicating with your enemies. And this pretty common, but you'll see how this changes a little bit for level up. Choose a type of adversary, and we have a list of those adversaries right here. Uh, Aberrations, beasts, celestials, constructs, dragons, elementals, fey, fiends, giants, monstrosities, oozes, plants, or undead. Alternatively, you can select 2 humanoid heritages, such as gnolls and orcs, as studied adversaries, and this is pretty common. You have advantage on survival checks to track your studied adversaries, as well as on ability checks to recall information about them. You also learn to communicate with basic words in a language of your choice that is spoken by your studied adversaries, if they speak one at all. During a long rest, you can replace a current studied adversary with a new one. And this one sentence down here. During a long rest, you can replace a current study adversary with a new one, was a something that people really wanted to have for the ranger, again, going back to the ranger problem, right? The oh, I am good at hunting, I don't know, undead or fiends or uh, humanoids or giants, and then the next adventure or next 5 adventures, none of those exist. And like, it's like, yay, I have this ability that I can't use because of circumstance. And so the ability to change that and make it a new one was incorporated. uh, the next part, of course, at second level, you get combat maneuvers, and their list of combat maneuver schools that they can choose from are Biting Zephyr, Mirror's Glint, Rapid Current, Razor's Edge, Spirited Steed, and Unending Wheel. Each of those schools has its own theme. If you listen to the titles of them, you can kind of gain a glimpse into what kind of combat abilities they are related to. A Spirited Steed is definitely like a mounted type of ranger. Maybe you're mounted on a wolf or a classic horse or an elephant or giant lizard or something. Um, Razor's Edge is definitely like probably dual wielding weapons and things like that. Mirror's Glint is about distracting and using decoys and to distract your enemies so you can get into their defenses, things like that. And then, of course, you gain more as you gain in levels. Of course, the fighter martial style class has access to all the schools. The ranger has a limited number of schools they can pick from. Just like the monk has martial abilities, they have a limited number. There's a marshal, there's the herald, um, as a martial class, and of course, again, they have a limited number that they can pick from. Your wilderness survival. This is stride and seek instead of hide and seek. It's stride and seek. Your wilderness survival instincts guide your physical and mental training. You gain one of the following features at second level. You gain the other feature when you reach fifth level in this class. And it's Hunter's Target and Swift Feet. You will recognize Hunter's Target because this used to be a spell, and it was turned into a natural standard ability for the Ranger. You can use your bonus action to focus your attention on a specific enemy. Choose a creature you can see within 90 feet to mark as your quarry. For 1 hour, you are focused on this creature. You gain +1 bonus to weapon attack rolls against the creature, and your weapon attacks uh, deal an extra 1d6 damage. In addition, you have an advantage on perception and survival checks to make to find it. If the creature drops to 0 hit points before the hour ends, you can use a bonus action to mark a new quarry. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. And the other ability you get to pick is Swift Feet. And again, Level Up 5th edition wanted to have more options. And so one of these you can pick at second level, the other one you can pick at fifth level, and you can mix and match them. With Swift Feet, you can use your bonus action to move with greater agility. For 1 minute, your movement doesn't provoke opportunity attacks. You can choose to end this effect early to either increase your speed by 30 feet until the end of your turn or gain advantage on a weapon attack. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. And here we have the breakout box, which deals with ranger archetypes and spells and things like that. I'll get to your comments in just a moment. It says some ranger archetypes can grant spells. If you are not using the Wildborn archetype and gain spells from your ranger archetype, you learn to innately cast those spells once each between long rests using material components found in nature, such as a handful of dry leaves or loose gravel, instead of the tiny silver bell for the alarm spell. The spells that you cast in this way are always cast using the lowest spell level. Wisdom is your spellcasting ability for those spells. When you reach 9th level in this class, you gain a second use of your first level ranger spell between long rests. And when you reach 17th level in this class, you gain a second use of your second level ranger spell between long rests. And basically, it's just saying, like, maybe you don't want to, maybe the spells aren't exactly magical, but you do have access to some of them if you have the Wildborn feature. At second level, you have trained accuracy. At second level, you learn to maintain a level of discipline that spills over into everything you do. This perpetual state of focus allows you to perform incredible feats. And there's a trained accuracy at second level. So you get an accuracy bonus and accuracy reserve. So when you make a weapon attack, you can use your reaction to gain an extra bonus or damage bonus as shown on an accuracy bonus table. Between long rests, you have a number of uses equal to your wisdom modifier, minimum 1. So the bonuses down here, you you can get a +1 to hit or a +1d6 damage for 1 use cost, up to +3 to hit, or +5d6 damage with using 3 uses. And then you have a accuracy reserve. If you have not moved since the beginning of your last turn, you gain a +1 bonus to weapon attack rolls until the end of your turn. You lose this bonus if you move, and that's like the sniper feature. That's like I'm sitting and waiting along, and then you gain a ranger archetype at 3rd level. Typical thing. Talks about the ASI's ability score improvements. Note an adventurer that has fighting style archery gains no bonus to attack rolls from the fighting style when using trained accuracy, and instead gain a +2 bonus to damage and ranged weapon attacks. That must be from that's fighting style archery. Okay, I get that. We'll move down here to Wilderness Mystique. Before I get to your comments, right here at 4th level, Wilderness Mystique, this is a feature of Level Up 5th edition. There'll be a title, and then there will be 2 to 4 options that you can pick for your character. So even if players pick the same character class, as they gain levels, they can still differentiate themselves. And also there's the ability that when you gain certain levels, you can switch off a knowledge and replace it with another knowledge, especially if, without predicting it, you and the people you're gaming with decide to take a different maneuver. Your themes start to change. Maybe it was very like political and social, and now it becomes more like wartime, more combat oriented, and so allowing the players to kind of like massage their character into another category is something that very common. Daryl's like, there's it. Oh, Pete John says Goodberry kind of ruined part of the Ranger class for me. Good. The easy buttons. Goodberry. Oh, what's the hut? My brain is going away. Heroes Feast. Create food and water. Those spells and such were heavily nerfed in Level Up 5th edition. So they still exist, but they aren't at the level that they had been to allow you to bypass all the survival stuff. So just because the character classes change, it also means other features were changed in the game to account for that. So there's a heavy dose of leveling everything out. So there are no easy buttons. The exploits have been blocked off quite a bit in A5E. So there were some choices in 5th edition that were like gave you an exploit, and the designers decided to like and the surveys actually came back and were like, yeah, that's a little bit not only unfair, but like basically removed one of the biggest parts of the gaming style. And it was like, yeah, whatever. Daryl says, hey, it's nothing like I remember in 1st edition, just extra complications, in my opinion. It's a little more complicated. That's why it's called advanced. Yay, another sleepless night. Oh, well, I hope my dulcet tones knock you out there, alley-oops. Hey, Shinobi says, I'm playing a game now where I'm playing a marshal, and I'm pretty excited to try out the combat maneuvers. The combat maneuvers, I don't know whether this is true or not. I relate them to like 1/4 level special abilities. Many times, like in Sly Flourishes, he's bullish about A5E, and he considers the martial maneuvers to be, they are equivalent in terms of how they operate, like wizard spells, but they're non-magical. And yeah, so yeah, the combat maneuver system is pretty cool. Uh, I there was extensive playtesting. I bet somewhere in there in the martial maneuvers you might find an exploit, but it's a little difficult to find it because there are many of the martial capabilities from all the martial classes were taken, that the building blocks were separated and then it were rebuilt into the martial maneuvers so that it wasn't simply just pick one and it's the best, right? Good berry. When is a bad berry? Yeah, yeah. Don't take don't take the bad. Uh. You don't want to take the bad gummy. All right, here we go. Extra attack at 5th level. Um, Adversarial focus at 6th level. You gain an additional studied adversary, and you gain +1 bonus on weapon attack rolls made against your studied adversary. So if we go back up to the original, where you get to pick one studied adversary, now you have basically 2 slots for doubling up your adversary. So you could have like, I go after giants and dragons, or elementals and celestials, or instead of 2 humanoids, I've got like a set of 4 humanoids that are like my studied adversary. At 6th level, uh, you have a game hunting. Uh, you have advantage on any check made to locate or catch local game animals in the wild and gain the following features. You have proficiency with nets and being within 5 feet of a hostile creature. Oops. Doesn't. Here we go. Doesn't impose disadvantage on your ranged attack rolls with the net. You can use a 30-foot length of rope or strong vine as a lasso to try to grapple a creature within 20 feet of you. And when you use the attack action and attack with a dual wielding weapon, you can use a bonus action to attack with a net or use a lasso you are holding. And this is just the ability. I mean, it's kind of cool. It's 6th level, so maybe, would you be doing this at 6th level? Sure. But it is kind of fun because then you get to have like a weapon in one hand and you get to use a ranged attack like a lasso or a net. Lasso is just basically a different type of net. And you can use a grappling action basically for something that's 20 feet away from you, as long as you have at least 30 feet of length. And we've seen this before in like rodeos where someone's riding on a horse and they got the lasso, above their head, and they lasso the horns or the back legs of a of a calf or a bull or something like that. The same thing. At 8th level, you have Explorer's Instinct. Once between long rests, you can take 2 reactions in a round instead of 1. In addition, whenever you learn a new Ranger exploration knack or replace an existing one, you can choose from Druid Secrets of Nature or Fighter Soldiering knacks. And again, um, under the character classes, Druid Secrets and Fighter Soldiering knacks are like a specific thing for the character class that just gives them something else that they can do. And because there's options, you can again sculpt the character class the way you would like to. For the Ranger has Ranger exploration knacks, and we're going to get into those in just a minute. Once we get to 10th level, let's see. You get the Explorer's Instinct at 8th level. At 9th level, you gain the Missile Volley. It's called Flash of Steel. At 9th level, you gain the Missile Volley or Whirlwind Strike combat maneuver. It does not count against your number of maneuvers known, and you do not have to spend exertion points to activate it. So, again, this is specific to Level Up 5th Edition. Missile Volley or Whirlwind Strike is a combat maneuver. It's a special combat maneuver. And you get to do this as a Ranger, which is kind of cool. The fact that you don't have to spend exertion points on it. Also at level 9, you get Hunter's Focus. You can remain focused on your Hunter's target for up to 8 hours instead of 1 hour. And then at 10th level, you have Trackless Hunting. At 10th level, you can't be tracked except by magical means unless you choose to leave a trail. In addition, whenever you learn a new Ranger exploration knack or replace an existing one, you can choose to learn a rogue skill trick instead. And so that, rogue skill tricks, again, are something that is specific to that class. And we're going to go to the knacks right now. There we go. And at the end of the character classes that like the druid secrets, the rangers, excuse me, druid secrets, rogues tricks, fighter soldiering, and with this ranger exploration axe, these are the lists of those that you can get. You can mix match, relearn, things like that. Everything from, and here's, I mean, I'm just going to read out some of the titles and then maybe go pick one or two that are unique. But there's things like Beast Friend, Build Shelter. Again, remember I talked about having havens. This is where that comes in. Beast Friend, Build Shelter, Calls of the Wild, Ear to the Ground, Expert Foraging, Forced Marcher, Guide, Healing Salves, um, Old Herbal. I think it's either bitters, not biters. I think herbal. Anyway, Huntsman, Long Walker, Master Tracker, Poisons and Antidotes, Read the Room, Relentless Pursuit, See the Unseen. And so, again, you don't get all of these, but you have the option to pick out of all of these during your, as your character progresses and during character creation. And Level Up 5th edition also allows you to drop one and learn another one so you can kind of replace it when you're advancing. Again, this could be thematic, like maybe we thought this was going to be in the Arctic region, but now it's more political and it's urban. Or maybe your character has a best friend that's part of the adventuring group, and that best friend individual has been teaching you other things. So maybe you were normally a huntsman and or expert forager, but now you're no longer Tarzan, and now you are more urban and social, and then so you replace that with like Read the Room, or you learn that as you gain another level. And these, for the most part, these aren't. Uh, Most of them are not gated behind a level, but some of them will have a prerequisite. Like Master Tracker says prerequisite 9th level. So of course you can't pick that until your 9th level. See the Unseen prerequisite is 5th level, etc. And see if there's any more. Monster Mimic, Survivalist. I did mention Healing Salves. See, are there any more after Survivalist? That's it. And then we get into ranger types: the Beastmaster, the Warden, and the Wildborn. And the Wildborn is the one that is that as you could see, pretty traditional chart, Wildborn spellcasting table, and that's where you have the ranger with the spell abilities. Now of course, as I was reading through this, if you're familiar with the transitions through the different editions of the ranger, you'll notice that some of the abilities that used to be spell like abilities have become just standard ranger capabilities. To be honest with you, it's just a reskin, and I don't. Sometimes we need it written down for us to accept the fact of what it is, but yeah, um, the reskinning spells and making them just skills sometimes rubs people the wrong way. So a few of the ranger capabilities were basically just what we used to call spells, taken apart, limited ability, give it a cool name, and then it just becomes a standard ranger ability. But let's see what you guys have to say. Yeah, when feats do what spells can do, not much difference. Exactly. And Aliop says, "Is this the spellless ranger concept?" This is the spellless, the standard base ranger class for A5E. Yes, it is the spellless ranger concept for level up. So if you want to play a ranger, unless you pick the Wildborn archetype at 3rd level, you will not have any spells. Shinobi says, I also think of combat maneuvers as melee spells, and I like the variety that they give. Also, I'm not a fan of exploiting the system, just things that give more things to do, not just hit things hard. And that was another reason for exploring just well maybe well I guess that is a proper term, exploring and expanding the exploration rules, because if you if the only way to prove your effectiveness in a game is to do damage, then anything that doesn't allow you to hit things harder and more often and more efficiently, then it feels like you are not effective in the game. Whereas by expanding the exploration rules into its full pillar in A5E, it means that just because you can't hit things hard doesn't mean you're not effective. And so using combat maneuvers, having an ability to forage, having an ability to create shelter is just as important. Um, you know, foraging for things, hunting and gathering is important because you need supply for survival. You also need to build shelter because without those things, once the players go Nova, they're like, "Hey, 5 minute workday, let's go take a long rest." And the ranger's got his arms folded, like, "Yeah, you can't do that because there's no safe place to do it." And oh, guess what? Nobody brought any clean. You know, you guys didn't even bring food and water with you. I guess you need me to do that, wizard and warlock and cleric and right. So yeah, Daryl says I can see the class being useful in surface level scenarios, but wouldn't want much to be a ranger in dungeon delving. Really? You don't think so? I think. I mean, if I just off the top of my head, how I would massage my ranger for dungeon delving would be I would pick um, a a known adversarial monster or something. Talk with the game master too, the dungeon master, and say, "Hey, listen, uh, we're going to be mostly dungeon delving, and without giving me too many details, give me like 3 monsters that I would probably find down here." And as a game master, I would definitely let them know and go, "Listen, if I was you, I'd probably pick humanoids. I'd probably pick maybe some undead, some fiends. You know what I mean? Things like that. You know." So yeah, and also let's see if we can some of the exploration knacks, and I'm not even sure if you guys can see this. Um, Maybe a beast friend is something you could pick in the Underdark, like a giant bug or a bat or something like that. Things like I would just it would just be another environment. Is how I would look at it. Also, there's actually a book called The Dungeon Delver's Guide. Uh, I also have the leatherette hardback version of that book too. That was released later on, but it wasn't released in the initial Kickstarter. It was kickstarted later. But yeah, let's see. I guess if you really want to make it thematic, you could be a beastmaster and have an have a cave dungeon styled beast. I suppose if you wanted to do that. Um, I don't know. Yeah, it would be kind of cool. But let's see. Is there anything known? Oh, and then we get into the rogue. Okay, okay. So I just want to make this short. Oh, martial maneuvers. Let's do martial maneuvers. Combat maneuvers, and we'll get into the combat maneuvers section here. Maybe we'll pick another one because I think I did Adamant Mountain or something like that before. Giant says in my BX game, I give magic users read magic as an innate skill with an X and 6 chance increasing with level. Yeah, and listen, I'm a bit of an oldie but goodie kind of person too. Yeah, BX Beck Me, I'm still a fan of that, and I personally always felt like the read magic thing should have always been innate, but that's how what happens through various editions, right? In the beginning, it's like you've got to pick read magic as one of your spells, and you're like, really? Over the sleep spell or floating disc spell? Really? Right. Oh, he says detect magic, not read magic. I give them read magic as innate skill that just takes a certain amount of turns. I don't. I'm with you. I play that game. Hell yeah. Is the combat maneuvers based off the fighter's battle master, or is it his own mechanic? It's similar to fighter's battle master. So okay. Slight history. Okay. Uh, Useless information here. The people really liked the Battle Master from the surveys. And instead of making now there is a class called the Marshal that is very much the Battle Master, but it felt it felt too limited to only give it to that character class, in which case people would always pick the Marshal class, which is the name of the you would call the Battle Master in this game. So instead, those combat maneuvers were then expanded upon, and then it became its own thing. So the answer to that is it is its own thing, but instead of making brand new rules, it operates it operates physically like spellcasting does mentally. So if you're familiar with 5th edition, you know how 5th edition will say something. Let's see if I can highlight this. So 5th edition will say something like 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma modifier. For the martial abilities, it's the same thing, but it's physical stats. It's 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your strength or dex modifier. And there are actually some, I believe, that use your constitution as well. So that's what the martial maneuvers do. And then some abilities were a little bit too good, like the fighter's ability to action surge and just get another turn. And in some of those abilities that were spread amongst other classes were separated, dismantled, and then put into the schools and then put back in again. So let's pick one for the Ranger class. So these are combat maneuvers. There are some combat maneuvers are called basic. That means anybody can do them simply by virtue of being a character. So basic maneuvers are things that everybody can do. Disarm, grab on, knock down, shove, grapple, overrun. Any character class can do that. Doesn't mean you're good at it, but any character class can do that. And then this is the list of the combat maneuvers in alphabetical order, and it gives you it's a quick look, alphabetized. Look it up. Oh, this lets me do this. This lets me do that. And then you can get more detail as you go into them. But you can see there's a lot of them. There's 5 pages of them. So there's so many that you couldn't even roll percentile dice and pick one randomly, because you're like, okay, how do we get to the other, I don't know, 147 other ones or whatever. But let's pick one. Mirror's glint. Oh, it goes on 2 pages. Okay. All right. We'll stop. We'll do this one. So actually, let's get this to a single pager. So this is Mirror's glint maneuver, and this is a martial school, I guess. You don't have to think about it like martial arts, like monks or something like that. But in your game world, you could limit or even make these rewards by having characters travel to new lands, and maybe they go into across the accursed desert, because we always go across the accursed desert on this channel, and there's a martial school that the player is not familiar with, and then maybe you give the player the ability to learn from that martial school, or you grant them an ability when they gain a level, rather than giving them like a magic item or something like that. That's how I would do it, as a gift, and also to introduce things to players that might not be useful, might not be used to it. But the Mirror's glint maneuvers, you'll see 3 words, and it gives you an example of what it's about. It's about flowing, being insightful, and reactive. At its heart, combat is a dance between opponents, and practicing the Mirror's glint tradition means reading, interpreting, and anticipating one's foe. Using instinct and your insight from battles won and lost, you are excellent at reacting to an enemy in order to gain the upper hand. So, unlike spell slots, instead you have an exertion pool. So all martial classes have an exertion pool. That number of exertion is twice your proficiency bonus. So in 5th edition, you start out at +2. proficiency, you go to a maximum of +6 proficiency. So you will have a you will begin with a minimum of 4 points, maximum of 12 points, and then it tells you each one will tell you each ability will tell you the name, knockdown, assault. For example, it tells you how many points it costs to use it, and then it'll tell you what degree it is, and maybe if it's an action, a reaction, a stance. A stance, you can get into a stance and maintain that stance. Most abilities you can't mix and match stances, but you can maintain the stance over a longer period of time. So the knockdown assault says your unpredictable maneuvers puts your opponent off balance. When you connect with your weapon, they stumble and fall. When you activate this maneuver, you take the attack action and make a melee weapon attack, as well as any additional attacks granted by extra attack. Until the start of your next turn, when you hit with a melee weapon attack against a creature and deal 8 or more damage, it makes a dexterity saving throw or is knocked prone. And you can kind of tell, this is just my opinion, you can kind of tell, like, for example, let's say you're a monk or you're the ranger, because we're talking about the ranger. There are certain abilities that you can knock your enemies prone or stun them or things like that. And sometimes those abilities were a little bit too powerful, so they were placed into martial maneuvers. So you only have this ability if you spend the points on it. You can only get this ability if you have access to that school, and it only works unless you do 8 or more damage to an opponent, right? So you have to meet these particular categories, and they're a little bit. Sometimes it can be a bit specific, but it also means that when your martial character is in combat, it gives them something else to do, and these are non-magical. So leading throw is 1 point. Warning strike is another one. We go into other abilities, and of course they go up in point level and degree level and things like that. Warrior stance, assisted roll. That's kind of cool. Assisted roll, 1 point. Second degree mirrors glint reaction. You take the force delivered by an opponent's failed attack and make it your own, propelling yourself away. When a creature within your reach misses you with a melee weapon attack, you can use your reaction to move 15 feet without provoking opportunity attacks. And there's a bunch of little ones like that, and you get to mix and match them. Flowing form. Flowing form, 2 points. Third degree mirrors glint action. You turn into a twisting leaf upon the wind of battle, turning every dodged strike into a sublime counterattack. You take the dodge action. Until the start of your next turn, you make one melee weapon attack against each target that misses you with a melee weapon attack, and you have disadvantage on wisdom, perception checks. Basically, you're twisting and turning and things like that. Remember, a melee weapon attack could be a monster's like bite and claws, because that's what it counts as. So, but the terminology in 5th edition can be pretty specific, and we maintain that here. And it goes on to other things: heightened reflexes, take weapon, redirect, and that's from Mirror's Glint, right? Some of these are gated behind other things like prerequisites. You need extra attack. Some are level based. Some are stat based. Retributive blow, reflect attack. Mist and shade. Let me find something else, because mist and shade is similar. We go to another maneuver, martial maneuver, school. There we go. Rapid current, fast strikes, mobility, swiftness. Kind of cool. Yeah, Alley says, I kind of figured I gave all my warrior-based classes the combat maneuvers. The Battle Master kept its thing just a maneuver die equals proficiency bonus die, while the other classes has a base of D6. Okay, yeah. Maybe we'll do the martial class next. I don't know. Why not? Yeah. So a lot of these are like these combat maneuvers are like have been separated out from that class, and then other martial classes can pick them. So, for example, my ranger and your monk could possibly learn some of the similar maneuvers from the same school. Now, we don't have to pick the same school, or we don't have to pick the same maneuvers from the same school, but that's how it works, right? And like I said, there's like 100, and some of the abilities are pretty specific, and you may say to yourself, like, well, that kind of sucks. Like, it's pretty. Like, when am I going to both be flanking a monster or 5 feet away from an ally while at the same time dual wielding? While at the same time, the reason for that is these are non-magical maneuvers. A wizard has to have spells, and they have spell slots, and there are anti-magical restrictions to prevent them from doing that. But the proverbial, we've all been captured and we are in a jail cell and we need to escape, your martial characters still have access to these abilities. Now, some of those abilities, you might not be able to use them if you don't have a weapon, but if you somehow get the key or pick the lock or break the bars and you get out, and the first thing you grab is one of the, I don't know, the guards billy club or something like that, and that's the only weapon you have until you get you get your stuff back, because this is the beginning of the adventure. The wizard may not have access to some of their spells, especially if they don't have their components, they don't have their spell book, they don't have their spell focus, but martial classes still have access to these. So the limiting factor is exertion points. The limiting factor is there, some martial maneuvers counter other martial maneuvers. And lastly, the circumstances that they are useful in can be limiting as well. So, yeah. Here is one that, here's something, because the picture reminded me of something, and I was thinking of Jackie Chan's Drunken Master and Drunken Master 2 movies. And this is a maneuver that accounts for something that other 5th edition people have been doing when it comes to drinking potions. So rapid drink is a 2-point maneuver, 2nd degree rapid current bonus action. As casually as any seasoned alchemist, you pluck the cork from a magical concoction and pour it down your throat or a companion's. You drink a potion or administer a potion to a creature within reach. And you can do this as a bonus action. So normally, drinking a potion is not a bonus action unless you have rapid drink. So Level Up 5th edition has both kept the old rule, which people hated, right? Where players are like, I should be able to drink a potion and use my weapon and shield and cast a spell at the same time, which I think is pretty ridiculous, right? Making hard decisions is part of the game, I feel. That's just me personally. Sorry, rant. Anyway, rant over. But if you have the, first you have to have access to the rapid current martial school, and then pick this, and then get a 2nd degree ability to drink potions as a bonus action. And it costs you 2 exertion points, so you may not even have the exertion points. So it puts a limit on it, but it also gives you the ability to do it. Don't get mad at me. Surveyors wanted something that had a little more um, um, threat level, to keep the threat level higher, and so that was what was kept in the game. Here's another one. Razor's Edge is about awareness, concentration, and discipline. There's one in here. I can't remember it. Uh, I, something about keeping your concentration. I can't. I can't see. I can't see it. Anyway, all right. Let's go to your comments, and then we'll get out of here. Woo, the Marshall. Yeah, yeah. Woo woo. Um, Yeah, Shinobi says, you can check out the A5E tools site for info about all the classes and combat maneuvers. Yeah, why didn't I put that in the chat? Yeah, so, duh. 5. There is a website. First, let me copy this, put this in the chat, and then I'll go to that website. So A5E.tools is constantly being updated. It is Advanced 5th edition online. So we're going to share this out. And I will navigate around it. There we go. And so if you go to A5E.tools, this is what you will see. And you can go to there's sources, which books, there's character classes, there's rules, things like that. So we're going to go first. We're going to hit rules. We're going to go to combat maneuvers. We go to combat maneuvers, and they are listed. But we're just going to go to basic, the combat maneuvers, and you get a bunch of pull downs. So you, instead of going through every single one of them, which is in this long, I mean, this is the book. Where is it? They are divided by their traditions. These are the names of their traditions. This is the degree, so you can go from basics to 5th degree. You can decide which kinds of ones you want: action, bonus action, stances, things like that. Exertion points, how many exertion points it costs to use them, and such. So we are going to go to sanguine knot. I don't know. I got to pick one, and let's see. And under sanguine knot, these are all of the combat maneuvers in alphabetical order that you gain with sanguine knot, and then you can pick them. Here's shield wall. That's a very Viking like Spartan warrior type thing, and it tells you what it is. Shield wall, 1 point, blah 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 blah, and then you can go click on back to combat maneuvers, and it tells you about them. Tells you the names, how they're used, where they came from, things like that. How you come up with the combat maneuver save DC. Sometimes you will apply your combat maneuver to an enemy, and they will trip and fall. They'll be blinded. They'll be stunned, and to resist that thing. And that's how you mathematically figure it out. Your stances, your exertion pool, blah, 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 blah. Talks about how to recover your exertion pool. You can meditate, refocus, and stretch to refill your exertion pool more quickly. You expend hit dice to do so, recovering 1d4 exertion points for each hit die expended. This process takes 1 minute per expended hit die. But anyway, that's Level Up B. It says open beta because it keeps every time they release something new, they have to put it into the system and then make sure that it doesn't get any bugs or go to dead spaces or things like that, or put you in a loop or whatever. So it's constantly in open beta. I mean, I guess at some point they'll stop making things for it, but whatever. This I ruled that if you have the potion on you that is not in a backpack and used for you, it's a bonus action. Administered to others is an action. Okay. Daryl's like, so rangers can do magic stuff without the limitations a magic user has. Eyes rolls, shakes head. Well, there's other limitations in there, right? Like how often the oh, I was going to say not the capability, the what's the way to describe it? You are limited by resource, by space, by time, and by scope. That's what I mean by scope. So, for example, like trying to think of something off the top of my head, and I want to go to it. Let's see, Ranger, other than the Hunter's Mark. Let's see. Do 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 do. Other than a 230 trackless Hunter. Mm, 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 mm. I'll find it. I think I'll find it. Yeah, maybe I won't find it. But anyway, Yeah, that's basically it. Because most of the time, when we think of rangers, we really don't think of them as having magic. Normally, what we are, what ends up happening is in our, it's the simulationists rubbing up against the rules of the game. So when we think of our favorite rangers from fantasy, normally what happens is they're like finding herbs and spices and seeds and leaves and roots and animal carcasses and other kinds of things out in the wild and mixing and combining them together to do a thing. And the more often than not in the game, a magical ability is the way we describe to do the thing. So instead of making it a new thing, we just go, well, why don't we just give the ranger the magic ability to do the thing so that the thing gets done, like healing, right? So an example is under the ranger, you can make healing salves. It's an exploration knack, so it's one of the exploration knacks right here, right? Now we don't say that the ranger has lay on hands or cure light wounds or whatever, or cure wounds. That's my OSR coming out. Um, Instead, you can pick a knack called healing salves. And so once between long rests, you can spend an hour to collect natural ingredients and concoct an ointment that speeds healing. This salve is potent for 24 hours and has a number of uses equal to 1 plus your wisdom modifier. As an action, you can use the salve to restore 1d4 hit points to a creature within reach. Right? So um, spend an hour. There's a time factor in there instead of like using it as a spell ability. Um, uh, and mind you, it's in between long rests, so you can't use it during a long rest. You have to do it between your other long rests. It only lasts for 24 hours. So, if you concoct it and 24 hours passes and you don't need to use it, it's useless. So, meaning this prevents you from a ranger having a backpack full. I've got 18 of these things in here, right? And also, it's you have to use it as an action to apply it to use it for yourself or others. So yeah, I mean, could this have been written down as like the ranger gets to cure wounds spell or something? Sure, but so that's how that's done. Ooh, everything disappeared. Damn it! What in the world? Okay, okay. I'm uncertain why that happened or why that happens. All right, we're going to get out of here. What else? Oh, something that I didn't do. Sorry, last thing for the ranger. I am going backwards. Wilderness mystique. This is an ability, and along with the ranger class and many of the other classes, you will notice this happens at different level periods, and that is there will be a title of something, and you get a choice in picking what you want. So at fourth level, the ranger has wilderness mystique. At fourth level, your experience is as an expert survivalist manifests at the subconscious level. Choose one of the following options. And this allows there to be, again, there's more um, options, more ability to cultivate your character class. So you have answering silence, fearsome mysticism, or kindred spirit. Answering silence is when others seek your advice on wilderness matters, they often arrive at the correct conclusion despite or perhaps because of the silence with which you respond. When a friendly creature makes a nature or survival check while within 5 feet of you, it gains an expertise die. That's pretty funny that like you help them out by being quiet or shutting up because you look at them with that look like seriously. Anyway, you can another option is fearsome mysticism. Your uncanny abilities and single-minded focus can be unnerving to the uninitiated. You gain an expertise die on intimidation checks against any creature that is neither proficient in arcana nor cast spells. And then kindred spirit. You intuitively sense when another wilderness expert is nearby. Your passive perception increases by 5 to detect hidden or invisible creatures within 30 feet of you, and you instantly detect whether any creature you can see is proficient with stealth or survival. And so, yeah. Now, Could you later on replace one with another one? Yes, as you gain levels. Could two players be rangers and then one pick one and one pick the other one? Of course you can. And then of course these your choice in picking any of these would be based on like the themes and setting and your play style and things like that. So guys, thank you very much for letting me just randomly go over the ranger. I kind of like this artwork here, so I'm gonna put this artwork up into the main picture here, and we're gonna get out of here. I like his face. I like the little scrunch. Yeah. Orc or ball-headed elf. That's for you to decide. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. Thank you very much for allowing me to introduce some of this. I think what was it, Shinobi? Shinobi and I were both um, um, being entertained by Sly Flourish and his. Hey, have a good day, Daryl. Always welcome to have you here. Yeah, there's some differences. It's not for everybody. So yeah, I am I defending it a little bit? Sure, because my name is associated with it. Well, at least the trials. Oops, hold on. I'm reaching off to the side. Um, uh, boop, 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 boop. At least the Trials and Treasures book. This is the Adventurer's Guide. It's the Player's Handbook version. Um, of the book. This is the Trials and Treasures book. Sometimes people want to refer to it as like the Dungeon Master's Guide. It's basically the exploration book. It's got all the treasure in it. It's got the and all the exploration dynamics, as well as the boons and discoveries you get when traveling. And and this book was released later, the Dungeon Delver's Guide. What I love about all these books have double ribbons in them. I don't know something about the ribbons. Again, a leatherette book, Dungeon Delver's Guide. This is the hey, everybody's underground and in the natural caves and carved dungeons of the deep underdark or something. Let's have some specificity to that, and that's where this book comes in. But yeah. Now my name is in the Trials and Treasures book. I didn't get to work on. I was part of a group of people because there were like 30 developers and such for the game. So yeah, but so do I feel a little bit like sure, a little bit, but that's just me being childish, right? That's me being human. But the game's not for everybody because fifth edition wasn't for everybody, and this is advanced fifth edition. So you're going to get a lot more options, a lot more complications, things like that. So, guys, thank you, Daryl, for saying have a good day, and everybody else have a great day. Thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for just I don't know, patronizing me. Boom, boom. So anyway, tomorrow is Friday. Of course, it's Future Friday. We're going to talk about Obsidian Star, a tabletop role playing game of transhumanism and posthumanism that I'm still working on, and talk about science fiction. I love science fiction, and I love like posthumanism and all that kind of stuff. So Future Fridays are back. I still get people picking and poking and prodding my Future Friday playlists of videos. So I got to give them some love too. So guys, thank you very much. Have a great day, and peace, love, and tranquility. Oh, by the way, for those who don't know, here in the States, uh, over this weekend is when our time changes. So I know other places across the pond have already their time has already changed. So we will come back into alignment at this weekend. So guys, have a great one. I'll see you later. Peace. Bye.